Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me well? I hope. Um, Thank you for joining us today. We are going to today talk about the subject that's on so many folks' minds, which is buying and selling an FFL business. What do you do and how do you do it? It's tough stuff. There's a lot to know and understand. And we have two absolute experts that have joined us today to give you all the information, the must knows, and the, I guess, insider tips, if you will. Because a lot of folks don't realize what they're getting into when you start the process, and it can feel totally overwhelming. So I want to say thank you to Terry and Matt for being here. Terry Kelm and Matt Breselow have joined us today. So gentlemen, would you like to give an introduction before we jump right into the presentation?
Yes, thank you so much, Alexis and Brian, and appreciate everybody taking the time to be on our call today. My name is Terry Kelm. I am the president of Sunbelt Re-Sales. Sunbelt Re-Sales is part of the Sunbelt Business Broker Network. We are almost a 50-year-old company. We are the #1 seller of small privately held businesses in the country. And we've had relationships with a couple of the different organizations that deal with FFL companies, namely Sports Inc. and NBS. For the last 10 plus years or so, I had the privilege of meeting Brian at an NBS, or I'm sorry, at a Sports Inc. meeting earlier this year, and he thought that the content that we provide would be good for his members as well. So that's how we came about. I invited Matt Breselow with me as well. I'll let him introduce himself in a second here, but just the reason I brought Matt on is Matt truly is an expert in this area. Matt is an FFL license owner, and he has been involved in several deals with Gunstar owners. And Matt, if you want to add anything to that here, please do so.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, guys, and pleasure to meet everybody today. As Terry mentioned, my name is Matthew Breselow. I'm a senior business broker and the finance director for Sunbelt Milwaukee. I'm a national business broker, so I do help people across the country. I am a Type 1 FFL holder. I did start a business back in 2012 and sold it in 2022. I both had in-store and online. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a great transition. But yeah, to Terry's point, I do help most of the FFL holders across the country look to either plan their exit and or negotiate and navigate that exit plan.
Thank you, gentlemen. Looking forward to the presentation. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody we do have a Q&A board. We also have a chat. If you have questions, feel free to post them. At the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. And Brian, anything you want to add?
No.
Thank you. All right. Well, Terry, Matt, it's all yours. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks again. It's great to be here, and I really appreciate you guys all taking the time. I want to just do a couple brief overview things before we get started. Obviously, the topic of whether to buy a business or sell a business is one that can't be significantly covered in 1 hour's time. So today's presentation is really just to hit some of the high-level stuff, kind of give you guys some ideas on how things look, whether you're looking at buying or selling. The decision for you to either grow your business or go and sell your business is one that's extremely personal, right? It's only you that can make that call. But we want to kind of talk a little bit today about what it looks like if you decide to sell or to buy. A lot of the information we're focused on today is more towards selling, but it works in reverse, right? If you're a buyer of a business, a lot of the stuff that we talk about today, would work in the exact opposite way if you were on the other side of the coin and you were looking at buying a business. So we're going to talk a little bit about exit planning basics. We're going to talk about the markets. There's a couple different distinct markets that businesses in the FFL industry operate in, whether it's the lower middle market or Main Street. We'll give you some definitions on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about valuations and how these things are valued by buyers. But also we're going to talk about how buyers view businesses besides just the monetary part, right? What other things do buyers, or what other things, if you are a buyer, what should you be looking at a prospective business to assess the risk that's involved and how to figure out the true value of what you should pay for that business. We'll leave you with an offer that Sunbelt offers every FFL or FFL Guard member. And then, like Alexa said, we will have a Q&A as well after that point in time. So jumping right into it, a lifestyle of business, it really follows a sigmoid curve of mathematical proportions, and that is it has identical stages throughout the business life cycle. You have your startup and your initial growth stage. You then have the acceleration to maturity, and then you have the stagnation to decline. So if you want to sell your business, it's important that in order to maximize the value of your business, you want to sell it while you're in that acceleration and maturity stage. And if you wait too long and you hit that stagnation or decline stage, you're not going to be able to maximize the value of your business. A great way, especially if you're already a mature business, a great way to accelerate again and go back to the acceleration standpoint is acquisition. Acquisition is also a terrific way to prevent decline. So again, it's a very personal decision. Should I sell? Should I buy? What should I do? But the point of the slide is in order to maximize value, you can't be in a declining stage. You have to be somehow accelerating, whether that means you just acquired somebody and now you're going to sell, or you're still stepping on the gas pedal in your own business and you're still in that acceleration to maturity stage. That's where you're going to maximize value of your business. And again, if you wait till you're already in that the declining stage, doesn't mean you can't sell your business, but it means you're probably not going to maximize value. So the factors to consider and whether you should be looking at buying a business or selling a business include your age and your energy. And age is a very subjective thing. I like to look at energy. Do you have the energy? Well, I don't care whether you're 88 years old or 58 years old. Do you have the energy to do this? And know that acquiring a business is going to take time, and then integrating that business is going to take time. Do you have the proper resources, right? The capital that's going to be needed to buy the business, the infrastructure, the additional employees or buildings or whatever that will come with it. So you have to review and take inventory of what you have from a resource standpoint. You also have to have the knowledge base, right? And that is, if you're looking, especially if you're looking to diversify your revenue streams, maybe you're going to add a line that you typically don't already have, or you're going to add a range, or you're going to add online or something like that. Do you have that knowledge? Do you understand the marketing tactics that go along with that? All of those things should be into consideration when you're looking at potentially growing your business through acquisition. And Matt, is there anything else I missed there that you think that they should be thinking about if they're talking about an acquisition?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that if you're looking to exit the business, it's a 2 to 5 year planning process to maximize that. And if you're looking to buy a business, you have to have those right indicators in place. Is it the right revenue stream, right revenue volume? Is it the right industry? Do they have the right licensing, right? Is it in the right area? And does it meet my overall expandatory goal? Is it a lifestyle goal, or is it just a pure customer acquisition goal? Right. So I think, yeah, I mean, you cover a lot of that, but whether you're buying, selling, or expanding, you got to sit down and have a written plan in place. How do I want to do this? And what is the goal upon either, the achievement of that goal, exit, grow, or expand?
Yeah, and as you look at the exiting, I really like this quote from Warren Buffett: "Mistakes made in the once in a lifetime sale of your business are not reversible," and nothing could be more true. For many of you people who, when you get to the point of selling your business, I don't care if you're thinking about selling in a year from now or 20 years from now. For most small business owners, the sale of their business is their single biggest financial transaction in their lifetime. And to not take that seriously and to not put the proper preparation needed on the front end of it to make sure you maximize that exit and maximize the value of your business is a mistake. I mean, proper planning is going to increase your odds of maximizing value. Proper planning is going to increase your odds of selling your business. I mean, if you look at that third bullet point there, about 25 to 30% of all businesses that end up in the market actually sell. Selling, there's no guarantee when you go put your business up for sale that it's going to sell. And with the baby boomers owning still well over 2 million small privately held businesses, there's been estimates and forecasts done by many leading economics people and magazines like Forbes and Bloomberg, and they said that we're going to see all of those baby boomers transition here in the next 10 to 15 years. They're all going to be gone. And so that's going to bring 2 million businesses to the open market potentially. So it's going to be a crowded field. It's going to be one that, you're going to have a really good business and have a really, have all the attributes that buyers are going to look for. You're going to have those in place in order to stand out in that crowded field. And if you're a buyer in that time, if you're looking to buy a business in the next 1 to 15 years, you're going to have some options. You're going to have lots of options. So you're going to have to be adept at going through and really sorting out the different business attributes of each business and making sure that you're buying the correct one. So gun stores too. I think you guys all know this, but I'll break the bad news to you if you don't. Gun stores are harder to sell than other industries. It's a different industry, as you know, and so we typically don't see a lot of gun store transactions at the same level as regular businesses. They do sell for less, and that's mostly because a lot of the audience is immediately removed as a potential buyer because they don't want to be involved in the industry. So it just bodes even further for FFL license owners and business owners that you have to plan to make sure that you have a business that has the attributes that buyers want when you go to sell your business. And so that's what this is all about today. FFL Guard wants to help you to build a sellable business, regardless of when you're ready to exit. Or they want you to be able to, to evaluate a potential purchase better if you're looking at growing through acquisition. Having a business that buyers are going to find desirable, it's going to give you a huge advantage in a crowded market. And it's important to recognize too, there's 30 or 40 people on this call, but most business owners are not properly preparing for the end. There was a study done by one of the leading economics magazines, and they said 72% of small business owners in this country have not put any thought into their exit plan as of right now. So, that's basically 3 out of every 4 businesses aren't proper planning for the inevitable day in which you're going to sell. And look, the truth is, we're all going to exit our businesses at some point in time. It might not be today, it might not be 20 years from now, but you're all going to leave. So proper planning starts now. I think it's really important that you start, the old adage is you should run your business every day like you're going to sell it tomorrow, because at some point that's what's going to happen. So having that knowledge and starting that plan, I think ahead of time, it's going to be powerful for you guys. It's also going to be financial rewarding when it gets to the point where you want to sell. So it was Securing Financial that said 72% of owners have no exit plan. So when you talk about succession planning, guys, there's really 4 key ways in which you can transition out of your business. You can sell it or give it to a family member. You can sell it to a key employee. You can liquidate or close it down, but I have the word yuck after that because even though that is a strategy, and in the same study by Securing Financial, they said 11% of business owners, their plan was just to liquidate and close. But understand that liquidation and closing probably is going to be the least profitable way to exit a business. Plus, you lose the operation, your employees lose jobs. If you have a lease, you lose your landlord loses a lease. FFL Guard loses a member, and Sunbelt loses an opportunity to sell a business. So it's yuck for all of us, but it is a strategy. But then there's also the third-party sale, which is our specialty. But the point of this slide is you as a business owner, only you can determine which way is the right path. Which way do you want to go to exit your business when that day comes? But if selling your business to a third party is your choice, or if you're acquiring, it's important, I think, to understand a couple things. Number one is, how is an FFL business value calculated? And then number two, what drives that value, either higher or lower in the eyes of the buyer, right? What makes that business go higher or lower when they look at it? And what kind of things are buyers looking at, or what kind of things should a buyer be looking at when they're contemplating a transaction? So when it comes to valuation methodologies, there's lots of different ways to value a business, right? Many different methods out there, and each methodology has its pros and cons. And we don't have time today to go through all the different methodologies and all the pros and cons, but I wanted to just talk about a few methodologies that some of you probably have already heard of or seen, because these are the more common ones. One is asset-based, and that's just basically what's the business worth is worth your assets, your inventory, maybe your fixtures, etc. Asset-based methodologies typically do not maximize value. Again, it's almost like a fire sale. You're just trying to get rid of your stuff and liquidate and get out. Then you have the gross sales methodologies. And the gross sales methodology, I work with over 30 different industries, including guns. And I will tell you that every industry has their own formula of, hey, my business is worth X amount of annual sales, and is it 20%, is it 50%, whatever the number may be. Here's the problem with a gross sales based methodology: it doesn't tell the entire story of the business. If Matt has a business doing making $2 million in sales, and I have a business making $2 million in sales, under the gross sales methodology, those businesses are identical, right? They're going to be the same price. But if Matt's able to make $350,000 a year off his $2 million, and I only make $100,000, which business do you think is going to be more valuable to a buyer? Which business do you think a buyer is going to want to pay more for? So the gross sales methodology just doesn't give us enough information to know how to price that business accurately. You also have comparison based, and this is real common, especially if you go to conventions like Sports Inc. or NBS, and you hear that Joe sold his business for this, right? Well, a couple things about Joe. Number one, Joe probably lied to you about what he actually got for a price, just to be a big shot. But even if Joe didn't lie, again, if Joe told you he got X amount and that sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And there may be a reason why he got that higher price. Selling a business or buying a business is the ultimate horse trade. It's the ultimate negotiation. And you are going to, if you're going to get, if you're trying to sell, you may get your highest price possible, but you may have to give up on terms, or you may have to give up on the tax allocation, or you may have to give up if you're going to be the landlord or you're going to sell the building. You may have to give up on real estate prices. So if anybody tells you that they sold their business for a price that you just think, wow, that is way more than I thought they were going to get, just, the next thing in your mind should be why? Why did they get more than I think the business is worth? And usually there's a reason for that. And then there's also what we call the owner benefit based or seller's discretionary earnings methodology of selling businesses. And this is the way that we like to value businesses first and foremost. This is the way that most hello. Oh, sorry. This is the way that that we I should say the reason why we like to use the SDE method is because this answers the most important question to both buyers and to banks, and that is, how much money does the business actually make, right? What is the real owner benefit of this business? And so we like to use that methodology first and foremost to figure out what the business is making for the owner, and then try to come up with the right multiple of that earnings to put the price on the business. And ultimately, guys, at the end of the day, your business is worth what? Your business is worth what a willing buyer will pay for it, okay? Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. And listen, in my 22 years in this chair, I can tell you, I've seen businesses sell for a lot less than I thought they were worth, and I've seen businesses sell for more than I thought they were worth. It all depends on that one buyer, right, who comes along. But what we try to do with every business owner we work with, whether on the buy side or sell side, we try to figure out what we think is the most probable, logical sales price for your business. That's what we're trying to ascertain. That's what our formulas do. And look, we're using a lot of averages to do that. And the definition of average is businesses are selling for more than that sometimes, and they're selling less from that time. But over time, this is the price that they would typically sell for. So as I mentioned, seller's discretionary earnings or owner benefit, very common methodology used. SDE is not profit, but it's everything that you can take out of the business. Okay. So, if you wanted to calculate your SDE, we look not only at your bottom line profits, that's the starting point. I don't care if your tax return is positive, negative, or you're just broke even, but that's the first line that we add to. But then we add things to it. And we add things like depreciation, amortization, we add back interest expense. We also add back your salary. And I'm not talking about a distribution, but any salary you pay yourself on a regular basis that's taxed, we add back that. And then we add back anything else that you run through the business that is more of a personal expense. Some more common ones include healthcare. If you pay for your healthcare through the business, some people pay for their cars through the business. Some people pay for their daughter's college tuition, or they buy a motorhome and they call it a delivery vehicle. I don't care. I am not the IRS. All we're trying to do is figure out what this business is really spitting off in terms of owner benefit, right? So we're going to add all of those items up to figure out what the true owner benefit or seller's discretionary earnings of the business is. And then once we have that number, then we're going to apply a multiple. Now the multiples, they vary. They vary by industries, but even within industries, they vary by company size, they vary by asset levels, they vary by a host of other factors that are unique to your business. So each business, as I said, is unique. So we're gonna work to pinpoint the correct multiple for your business. And we look at a lot of different factors to do that, to make sure that we think we're pricing the business right. Because multiples vary by several other facets of your business that are unrelated to the financial. Okay, and we're going to talk about a few of those here coming up. All right, I think it's really important to understand too, when we're talking about averages, right, that it is, again, just that. It's an average. Here's a guy who drowned in a stream that's an average of 2 feet long because he found the 10-foot hole. So when we give you guys averages and say, most businesses sell for this multiple, again, some sold for higher, some sold for lower. What we have to ascertain on your business is, are you average or not? Are you above average? Then your multiple should be higher. Are you below average? Your multiple should be lower. So when it comes to putting that multiple on the business, I kind of mentioned this in the early part of the program, and that is, there are a couple different ways or a couple different markets that business falls into when you in an FFL business, okay? And size dictates this. So if you are a traditional gun retailer or a range and you do less than $3 million a year or less than $500,000 in annual owner benefit, then we are going to use the seller's discretionary earnings methodology, and you are going to fall in a category that we call is a Main Street resale. And Main Street resale has its own set of guidelines on how we market the business and how that business is sold. If you have a traditional retailer or range and you do over $5 million in sales, or you're doing over $1 million in owner benefit, then we're going to more look at EBITDA as opposed to your SDE. In other words, we're not going to add back some of those things that we add back in SDE. Your value is going to be determined right off your tax returns. What's your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization? Your sale is what's going to be called a lower middle market resale. And the differences between a lower middle market resale and a Main Street resale is really on how we go about in finding the right buyer for it. Main Street resales are much more reactive. We post ads, let the buyers come to us. If your business is bigger and it's going to fall in that lower middle market category, we go out and find the buyers. We proactively source buyers. Okay. If you're an online seller, by the way, $20 million or more is typically going to put you in that lower middle market. Now, if you look at the two size categories I gave you, I said 3 million and 500,000 is lower middle, or is Main Street. 5 million and $1 million in profit is lower middle market. What about if you fall in between there, right? What if you're doing 4 million and 750,000 in SDE? Well, the answer is it depends. It depends on the other attributes of your business. It depends on a lot of other things as far as whether you're going to be Main Street or lower middle market, and we'll help you to determine that, obviously, as we go through the process. But here's where the rubber kind of meets the road. If you're selling a retail business, and you're in that SDE category of Main Street, you're looking at a 2 to 2.5 times your seller's discretionary earnings or your owner benefit plus your gun inventory. And I want to make sure that you understand that we're talking about guns only there, not accessories. So if you got a business that's doing, $2 million and you're making $200,000, you're going to sell that for somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 plus your gun inventory. If you're a range, your multiple goes up a little bit, obviously, because you don't have a lot of guns typically. You're at a 3 to 3.5 times that SDE number that we calculated. If you're an online, you're on a little bit smaller. You're on 1 to 2 times your calculated EBITDA or SDE plus your gun inventory. Okay, so again, we've seen businesses sell for more. We've seen businesses sell for less, but this just kind of gives you an idea of how the business is valued. So you can go back to your practices later today. You can take out a piece of paper. You can figure out what your true owner benefit is. You know what your gun inventory is. You can get a good idea of what you think your price might be worth on the open market. So the question then becomes is what drives that multiple? How do I get a 2.5 or even a 3 multiple versus getting a 2 multiple? Well, I want to reiterate to you that while financial performance is the number one factor in figuring out what a business is worth, the business price is not just a function of that data. Multiples are also going to vary and going to fluctuate based on these other facets unique to your business. This includes factors that are either labeled as growth factors or risk factors. And obviously, if something is a growth factor, that's going to bring a higher multiple to your business. Or if it's a risk factor, it's going to bring a lower multiple to your business. And this chart here just basically sums that up, right? If your growth factors are high, you're going to get a higher price. If your risk factors are high, you're going to get a lower price. Buyers look at businesses as risk. And the more risk that you have in your business, the more likely the buyer is either going to give you a lower offer or is going to pass altogether. So it's really important that you evaluate the risk. So what kind of things are buyers looking at, or if you are a buyer, what kind of things should you be looking at to evaluate the risk in an FFL business? Well, we broke it down into 5 easy categories, and I say easy because there's a lot more that goes into it, but this is 5 main categories that people should look at when they're evaluating a business. Look at the customers, right? Do you have a lot of customers? Are they diverse? Or are all your eggs in one basket, right? And typically in gun store businesses, you guys have this in spades. You have a very diverse customer base. We look at the industry. We look at the end markets, right? And again, for you guys' industry, kind of depends on where we're at in the spectrum of the political fire at that point in time, right? You guys know that. So the industry isn't always robust. But timing matters at that point in time. We look at your suppliers. Okay, do you have good contracts with your suppliers? Are you in good shape with your vendors, et cetera? We look at your competition. What's it look like in your marketplace? And then we look at your management and your financials and your employees and things like that. All of these type of things are what we look at. And the more things that are labeled, hey, that's good, they got that in spades, versus, oh my gosh, there's a problem there. The more things that are good is going to lead to a higher price. The more things that are bad are going to lead to a lower price. So let's go jump into a few things that we're going to look at in particular. And I'm going to have Matt jump in on a couple of these because he's done this before many times. Number one is books. Guys, I will just be really clear to you. If you're not keeping good monthly financials, year-end financials, and doing your taxes on time, your business is not sellable. End of story, no debate. I got a call from a Dairy Queen owner just 2 weeks ago, and they wanted to sell their business. And I said, send me your last 3 years of tax returns. And she said, yeah, we haven't done our taxes since 2020. And I just told her, I can't help you. Okay. You have to continue to, you have to be caught up in your taxes. You got to do good monthly books. You got to do, do annual statements, and then make sure your taxes are paid on time. I'm hoping everybody on this call is looking at me and going, I can't believe you're saying this in this at this point in time, but that's the truth. And unfortunately, there are some business owners that haven't done that. Multiple revenue streams, right? If you're an online seller, obviously, you got a higher volume but lower margin. You got the retail component. The ranges are super attractive to buyers. Ranges offer higher margins, but not only that, but ranges also offer a recurring revenue component that buyers love and that are huge growth factors, right? It takes some of the risk out to know that, hey, these people are signed up for a month contract or a 6-month contract or a year contract. So revenue streams matter. And obviously, if you have a range, that's going to be a plus in your thing. Inventory. This is really where the kind of rubber that meets the road. Because as I said, when you're looking at selling, whether an online or a traditional gun store, we're gonna get an SDE component, and we're gonna times that by a multiple, but then we're gonna add inventory. The amount of inventory is gonna make a difference, but so is how you handle that inventory. And Matt, I know that this has been one of the things that you really have to dive into when you work with FFL owners, is making sure that they have a good tracking system and that their inventory is in good shape, right?
No, agreed. And obviously, you can have your written acquisitions and dispositions book, or you can try to put it, in a computer. And the biggest thing is, how accurate is it, and how old is the inventory in that book, right? If your inventory is over 6 months old, that starts to hurt you, right? Because it's deemed to be unsellable at that point. So the question then is, are you putting it out on a website, and are you just kind of offloading it at cost? Are you taking a loss on it? So keeping accurate inventory is key and crucial, and tracking it and making sure that your books are in order. Because if you're audited during this and you fail that audit, or there's an infraction, I mean, your buyer is going to hold that against you. And as a buyer, you're going to hold that against your seller, right? We want clean books, we want accurate books, and we want to be able to track every single firearm that goes in and out of that business, and is provable. So if you work with me, I mean, one of the things I do with all my clients, I'll fly in, we'll sit down, we'll do an on-site view, we'll look at everything, and we'll take a look at your book. And I'll say, hey, you got a gun here from 9 months ago. Let's see it. Do you have it on site? If you do, great, you're good, right? But we want to spot check your book to make sure it's good. So if you're not self-auditing now, I definitely would recommend that you do that.
Thank you, Matt. We've kind of mentioned this too with wholesalers and vendors, terms and contracts that are transferable, or at least that are, that the buyer can assume will be the same. Your employees. This is another big one. It's really important to understand that when someone's buying a business, in many cases, you're not just buying the cash flow. You're also buying the human capital that comes with that, right? The expertise. And obviously, if your business has really good employees, long tenured employees that have been there a long time, that can run that business for you, or know the ins and outs, that's a huge benefit, right? If you tell me, hey, I'm trying to sell my business and I had to turn my whole staff over and nobody here has been longer here than a year, that's a risk for the buyer. So having good employees, well-trained, cross-trained, and have good tenure, that's another benefit to the business. The owner's role. This is something that is, especially if you're like me, if you're very hands-on, I wouldn't call myself a control freak, but I do like to touch every aspect of my business. And it's very hard then to delegate and to get your business to a point where you are not necessarily working in the business on a daily basis, but you're working on the business on a daily basis, that you're making the strategy calls, that you're growing the business from above it while the business makes money while you're not in the office, right? Having a good GM is one of those things that does that. And if you're to that point, congratulations, because I just think that's going to be a sellable business. If you think about a lot of the buyers that are out there for small businesses, a lot of them come from corporate America backgrounds, and usually they're from middle management. And what do middle managers at corporations have? They have processes, they have systems, and they have people to delegate to. So if you got all of your day-to-day store operations written down, If you got good people that you can delegate to, and if that business can make money while you're not there, that is the most desirable type of business for a buyer to buy. Okay. So if you're in the business every day, working behind the counter and doing everything, cheap cooking bottle washer, doesn't mean your business isn't sellable. It just means you're probably not going to maximize value, because buyers want to buy a business, again, where they can work on the business, not necessarily in the business. Your security. How do you keep the guns safe, right? What do you got? Cameras, safes, etc. I mean, what kind of things are you doing to keep the inventory safe? And of course, we always have to wonder about, the political landscape as well, right? Who's in the office? I mean, we know it's an inverse proportion. If it's an anti-gun government, right, that's in, you're going to probably have higher sales at your store, but there's a lower chance of selling the business at that point in time. So, I think we got a very pro-gun government right now. I think it's a very good time to sell a gun store if you're contemplating it. But we know that can change as well every 4 years. So it's just something you should be aware of. Other buy-sell considerations. Matt said this early on, and I want to reiterate it. And that is, guys, this is a process. It's not an event. Selling your business takes time. And really, you should start at least 1 to 2 years ahead before you're really ready to put the business up for sale. And then you should expect at least a year sales cycle, and it could be longer for a gun business, right? We tell most small business owners to expect a 9 to 12 month sales cycle. We tell gun store owners business it's going to be probably a year or longer, okay? Now, obviously, we've beaten that many times. My last sale of a gun store was in January, and we sold that one in 7 months. So it can go quicker, but we tell people to expect a longer cycle. So again, it's a process, not an event. Final inventory counts will take place right before the close. So you will be doing a final inventory with the buyer at that point in time. Matt, you want to talk a little bit about notifying the ATF? I know you've had some experience in this.
So the biggest thing is, once you've made the decision to sell, you don't necessarily need to run to the ATF and say, I'm thinking I might sell. But the second that you engage with a broker is a really good time to reach out to your investigator and say, hey, I'm going to be transitioning the business. What do you require from me to make that easier, not only on myself, you, and the buyer? And have that open, honest conversation. The major wrench that gets thrown in is when we're not sharing that information openly. Your buyer starts to apply for a license. They're having their conversation with the ATF. And now all of a sudden you get a phone call that says, hey, I just had a conversation and sounds like you're selling. Yeah, we're gonna have to, get in there, or you're due for an audit, or you're whatever, right? But the point is, the longer you wait, the more fires that can be created because of it, and the more ways that you can fall off the tracks. So open, honest communication is good, especially once you engage the broker, and our marketing is going to start. That's when I would start engaging that more higher end communication with the ATF.
And again, the buyers, if they're not already an ATF owner or ATF license, they're going to have to apply, and that process can take 3 to 6 months as well, although it can go quicker. And it's really important that the buyer submit accurate paperwork to start, because the ATF has to kick it back to them. It's gonna elongate that process a little bit. This last point, guys, is just us being real, and that is, whether you're buying or selling, there's stress. Okay. It's not an easy thing. It takes intestinal fortitude. We tell people all the time also to expect, basically 3 times during the course of a transaction, a deal is going to die. The first time is the buyer's going to walk away from the seller. The second time is the seller is going to walk away from the buyer. And the third time, both the buyer and seller are going to walk away from each other, right? It's all about how we respond to that and how we get everybody back to the table to continue down that process. But it is, selling a business is just like owning a business. It's not for the faint of heart. There's a reason why only about 9% of the population in this country ever goes into business for themselves. It's not easy. And then when you get to the point of having either to divest it, or if you want to acquire, it's a process, as an event. It takes time, and it takes some intestinal fortitude. So just recognize going in, this is not going to be a piece of cake. There's going to be some heartache. There's going to be some sleepless nights. But if you're with the right professionals and you're doing your due diligence the right way on the buy side, or you've got all your ducks in a row on the sell side, it's going to make the process go a little bit smoother, and hopefully you're going to have the outcome you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about why deals fall apart. As I mentioned, deals do fall apart, and it's really important that if whether you're buying or selling, that you kind of take some of these things into consideration on the front end. Number one is being overpriced. Look, I'd like to tell everybody, hey, I'll get you $15 million for your business. At the end of the day, buyers are not going to overpay for businesses typically. They're going to pay a market-based price. Again, it only takes one buyer, but we have to look at the facets of your business, both the financial and those other non-financial facets that we just talked about, and come up with what we think is going to be the most probable selling price of your business. And that's where we need to go to market at, or maybe a little bit above that, right? If you put your business out there at a very high price, it's going to sit on the market. And if it sits on the market, a couple things can happen, and none of them are good, right? Confidentiality in this process is so important. And the longer you sit on the market, the more likelihood that your employees, your customers, and your vendors find out that you're for sale. And that could lead to some very bad scenarios about what happens to your business long term. So price it right on the front end. Yeah, we can elephant hunt if you want, but it's going to probably end up costing you both time and maybe even more than time. It could end up costing you a business. I'm going to give you a good example. We had a business that the guy, we did the valuation for him, and he wanted $300,000 more than what we said the business was worth. He ended up listing with another broker that agreed with his price, or at least let him list at that price. He was on the market for 2 years. He ended up selling for a lot less than what we had it valued for, because in that 2-year period of time, his employees found out he was for sale. He lost his number one employee, and he also lost one of his best customers because they thought he was getting out of business. So again, it could have some really, really negative effects if you're sitting on the market for an extended period of time. So price it right on day one. Confidentiality, just kind of talked about this a little bit, but you know what? Look, there's the reason we say to people, do not tell your employees, your vendors, your customers, is even if you got your business listed, I'm going to assume that you're still going to want those three groups of people, your customers, your employees, and your vendors, to continue to do the things they've done to help you be so successful. And if they find out you're for sale, you run the risk that they're going to change their attitude toward your business. And the unfortunate reality is, we know as business owners, there are some really logical reasons why a business is going to sell. You might have had a 35-year good run and made all the money in the world, and now you just want to, set off to retirement and enjoy your next phase of your life. Employees and typical customers don't look at it that way. When they hear a business is for sale, even in 2025, their first thought is, uh-oh, something might be wrong. And if it's an employee, they think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if they sell? Am I going to have a job? Do I need to go look for a new job now? Should I be, and what's even worse is when employees decide to stick around, but they become apathetic. Maybe they start cutting corners. Maybe they put their hand in the till once in a while, right? It can have so many negative connotations when employees and customers find out your business is for sale. So we want to make sure we keep it as confidential as possible. Bad communication. Look, accountants, lawyers, they kill deals once in a while. But I will tell you that the person most often responsible for a deal dying is the seller themselves. And sellers don't mean to kill their own deal. We know that. But what you say and how you say it matters when you're talking to a potential buyer. Let me just give you a crude example. I was with a guy one time at a buyer-seller meeting, and the buyer said, hey, can you just kind of tell me, what you do on a daily or weekly basis in the business? The owner then went on a 10-minute, I'll call it a rant, about all the different things they do during the course of a week. And they just they just vomited out of their mouth all these different things. And when they got to the end of it, they said, I don't know if anybody could do what I do. And the buyer said, I don't want to find out. So you got to be careful, right? And I like to give this example. If someone asks you, because look, I'm a business owner. I know, I work more than 40 hours a week, and I'm sure most of you do as well. So when someone says, hey, do you work more than 40 hours a week? You can answer the question by going, Oh, yeah, it's terrible. I'm chained to this thing 60, 70 hours a week. It's just brutal. Or you can say, you know what? I do work more than 40 hours a week, but I find it's far more satisfying when I'm working for myself and building something for myself than if I was working for a large corporation, right? Same, you didn't lie to them. You told them you're working more than 40 hours a week, but you gave them a totally different perspective. So sellers have to be careful on on the words they use, the tone they use. We never want to see a seller make a false statement. You have to disclose the pertinent facts, but there's a way to do it, and so sellers have to be careful and make sure that they're portraying the right tone to a potential buyer. Sprint to the finish. Look, we've seen this many, many times. When a seller finally makes that cathartic decision that, hey, I'm going to sell my business, sometimes they take their foot off the gas. They're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to sell it and hopefully it'll be sold in the next 9 months or 12 months or whatever. So I don't care about that anymore, right? And then the business doesn't sell and the business starts going down for whatever reason, right? So it's really important, especially when you decide to sell your business, that you continue to hammer that gas pedal. You have to continue to do every little thing you've done that's made the business so successful to this point, all the way until you sit across that table and someone hands you that big fat check and you toss them the keys. Sprinting to the finish is really, really important, and it'll make or break a deal if you don't do it. Mistakes. Deals fall apart because of mistakes. Gross negligence on the part either a buyer or a seller will kill deals. Errors won't. But you have to just try to minimize the mistakes as best as you possibly can. Be open, be honest, don't disclose, don't try to not disclose pertinent facts. But again, it's all in how you present things as well. So just make sure that you're being honest as much as you possibly can. Don't try to pull something over on the seller or on the buyer. Those type of things are going to come back to haunt you very much so, and it could come back to haunt you even after the deal closes. So it's really important that you be as honest and forthright as possible going forward. The last thing I wanted to show you guys today before we open it up for questions is this, and this is the three-legged stool of maximizing value at sale. Whether you're buying or selling, this is the three components that we think you have to manage in order to have the most successful outcome. You have the price that you're going to pay, you have the terms that you're going to offer, and you have the tax ramifications of the transaction, whether it be on the buy side or sale side. All three of these things are negotiable. All three of these things are up for negotiation in a buyer seller. And if you're a seller and you want the maximum price, then you should be prepared to give away terms and taxes to the buyer. Or if you want the best possible terms, then you should be prepared to give away some price. Or if you want the best tax ramifications for your business, then you should be prepared to either give away price or terms. You will not get all three of these things to your favor. They have to work for both buyers. And understand this, guys. If you've been in business for longer than 10 years, you probably are going to have a tax liability to Uncle Sam when you sell your business. But there are ways to manage that tax liability. There's ways to mitigate that. But the tax strategies to mitigate that liability are exactly opposite of what the buyer wants from a tax standpoint with them purchasing this business. So again, it's negotiation and striking the right balance between price, terms, and taxes is the way that a deal is going to get done for both buyers and sellers. Because look, at the end of the day, whether you're buying or selling, a deal is only going to get done if both parties feel that they won. Okay, you're not going to sell your business if you think you're giving it away for nothing, or that you got messed up on terms or taxes. Same thing with the buy side. You're not going to buy a business if you're overpaying or you feel you're not getting the right terms. So it's a negotiation of all three of these components, and that's how a successful deal is going to get done. So how can we help? Well, we got multiple different ways that we can help you guys. We do offer full brokerage services. Helping sellers sell businesses is our core forte. That's our core niche. We are the largest seller of small businesses in this country. Some of our offices offer buyer services as well for full brokerage, where you hire us to help you find the right business to buy. We also have consultation, and this is for buyers or sellers. If, I use consultation for sellers. If you have an employee that wants to be the buyer of your business, but you just need somebody to help you dot the I's and cross the T's, we can help you with that. Same thing on the buy side. If you've got a business that you found and you just want us to help you evaluate it and maybe help you write up a purchase agreement or whatever, we can do that. We also have valuation services for buyers or sellers. So if you're a seller and you got a buyer, but you just need to put a right price on it, we can help you do that. If you're a buyer and you found a business, we can evaluate that business and help you figure out what the right price to offer, right? Also, for every FFL Guard member, Sunbelt Re-Sales offers a free, what we call value range analysis of your business. We will do a financial review of your business for the last couple of years of your financials, and we will give you a range of expected prices at market for your business. This is no cost. This is no obligation. And it's open for any FFL member. And I don't care if you're 5 years away from selling or 10 years away from selling. If you want to know where you stand today, we're happy to do it for you. So call me or email me for more information on any of those things. We'd be glad to help you. And like I said, if you're ready to sell, we have 165 offices in North America, but I will tell you that not every one of those offices is equipped to help an FFL license owner store. That's why we have people like Matt. We got select offices across the country that have people who specialize in this industry. Matt happens to be probably the best one in our business. So I'd be happy to introduce you to Matt if you're thinking about selling and see if he can help you. But no matter what, we're here as a resource to you guys. FFL Guard doesn't pay us. We don't pay them. We are just something that Brian wanted to add to his offering to the members because he knows that at some point in time, you're all going to be there. You're all either going to be looking at an acquisition or you're all going to be selling your business. And so they wanted you to have this resource. And so please utilize it. I do a lot of free consultations and free conference calls. So if you have any questions or any concerns, pick up the phone, give us a call. We'd be glad to help you out. And with that, Alexis, I'll turn it back over to you and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, I think that there's a couple little points you want to touch on especially for our clients.
Right, absolutely. Terry and Matt, I really want to thank you guys for being here today. I wanted to didn't have much to say beforehand because I wanted you guys to be able to get right to it, and then now I wanted to be able to share with our clients some real-time numbers that I've been seeing, hearing, we've been seeing, hearing at FFL Guard. I've talked to probably over 200 clients since the beginning of this year, and I can tell you right now that 80% of FFLs are probably down a little bit, somewhere between 10 and 15%. Then you've got 10% of them that are really maintaining where they were, but they do have a larger portfolio, i.e. their camping and fishing is carrying them right now. And then there's that other 10% who is still doing well. So from what I take away from Terry, if you're in that top 20%, if you find yourself still being level or making money right now, and this may be the time if you were thinking about expanding, within the next 2-3 years while Trump is in office, and while we know that, our industry is going to keep, declining just a little bit over the years, now may be that time to make the offer to someone that you've been thinking about if you wanted to expand. So that's just really the numbers that we've been seeing and hearing since the beginning of the year. I also wanted to remind you guys that FFL Guard can help you with anything you need help with as far as standard operating procedures and training. Terry and Matt touched on a lot of good things about, inventory being done, your staff being well trained. If you're a seller and somebody wants to buy you, or if you're a buyer looking to buy, you want that staff to be well trained. And one of the things we tell you at FFL Guard is you should be training and having your employees initial whatever they were trained on, keeping it in a binder so that you can then show a potential buyer, yes, look, even all of our employees are trained and signed for it. And then the other thing I just want to remind you is, please, before making any calls to ATF, you always call us first. We have processes and procedures already in place for you if you're buying or selling. We can tell you, who to call, when to call them, what to say, a fillable, PDF fillable letter for when you are closing out your FFL if you're selling. And then, of course, we can help you with upstarts and getting new FFLs if you are expanding. So I really, just wanted to thank everybody for coming in here while any of you were thinking of any questions you wanted to put in. And Alexis, did I miss anything?
No, not really. Just that, FFL Guard, if it's whether you're buying or selling, we can do the due diligence to prove up, if you will, your level of compliance, your level of documentation, things like that. If you don't have it and you need it, we can certainly get you there. But like these gentlemen said, buyers want to know that if you get hit by a bus, everything is still going to run smoothly, because ultimately, when you hand over the keys, that's it. So again, it's very important to have those things, and that's why we recommend it so much. Um, with that said, then please, any questions? We'd love to answer anything you have.
I mean, I need to go back and rewatch it because Terry answered more questions than I had, and I know
Absolutely.
that there's more answers in there. Really, guys, there was a lot of great, great information in there, and a lot of things that I was, that I now feel comfortable talking to the clients about, and I definitely feel comfortable sending them over to you, Terry. I know we've already sent a few, and we've gotten nothing but positive feedback on their dealings with
Absolutely.
you.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. And thank you very much. And look, guys, like I said too, it's a topic that we could talk for days on, literally, because it's so intricate and there's so many moving parts. But I hope that this kind of just gave you a little bit of an entryway into some of the most important things. But happy to have any further conversations offline, one-on-one. That's what we're here for. We're here as a resource. So please feel free to use us, and we'd love to talk to you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of folks will be reaching out, but thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.